Let's go.
All right. Cassandra Jones, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing super well. So we're here to talk today about the INGATZ Award nominated Let Her Be Evil anthology that you are the you're the mastermind behind this.
Yeah, my baby.
That's right. So so like
No, it took more than 9 months to make. So
yeah,
yeah, my
right.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe almost just as painful. No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'll update you later in life. I'll let you know. You specifically, I'll email you.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Um, but I honestly, so I drew a story in here, and I honestly don't know like the backstory of it. Like, how did you come up with the idea, and like what was the spark that made you want to make this thing?
Yeah. I was at the movies. I was watching the um, new Strange movie, and I got really frustrated with how they were treating women in that movie. And because I think because it was with Disney, they just weren't allowed to do as much horror stuff as they want. It felt like the movie wanted to do.
Sure.
And I got really frustrated, and I screamed, "Let her be evil!" And then later on, I was looking for an idea to make a comic anthology to kind of kickstart my career and make a portfolio piece. And I said, "Oh, you know what? I'll do that. I'll just do that. Sounds good." And that's how that was born.
Right. That's a heck of a way to start something. I
Yeah,
mean,
just shout in movie theaters. People really love it when you do that.
so you were a prose editor
Hmm.
when this sort of kicked off in your mind. What made you want to do a comic?
Well, I was doing freelancing on top of my full-time job, and I was sort of looking for things to spread into. And I was like, I love comics.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a go. And I started poking around, talking to people, seeing what the environment was like. And everyone kept telling me, "You should speak to Heather Antos. You should speak to Heather Antos." And I was like, "Okay, who is this Heather Antos person?" And
Sure.
I reached out to her. And she very kindly offered to mentor me. And when I asked her how she got her start, she told me about an anthology that she did. Um, and I sat around for a while trying to think of, how I was going to do it. And I said, why reinvent the wheel? I'll just make an anthology. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I did. And it was a sink or swim kind of thing. And it really took off in a way I wasn't expecting at all. I remember the first day I put the call for submission out, and I made my friend walk around Boston with me, and we hung up our little like homemade posters and things. And we went to get Chinese food afterward, and I cried at the table because I was like, no one's gonna want to do it. That was such a waste of time. I'm so sorry for wasting your time. And she was like, no, no. And then people really took to it in a way that I wasn't expecting. And now here we are, Ignaz nominated. So it was a wild ride for sure.
That is nuts to be nominated for an INGATZ after your first anthology. I mean, that's a pretty good sign for, hopefully
Yeah.
how your career is going to go, you know?
I hope so. I hope so. Maybe I'm a one-shot wonder, but I doubt it.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
I highly doubt it. I have to say, having participated in this, here's the story that I drew. You were like completely like professional, and you dealt with it. Like, putting together an anthology is hurting cats, and you did it like just so well. I have to give you kudos for that, and
Oh,
you got
thank
it
you.
together in a relatively small amount of time, because
Yeah.
getting writers together and then getting it out and getting an art team together, it takes a lot of time. Artists are notoriously flaky, you know um
Yeah. Yeah.
but you managed to like get it all together. And even I like was working on it, and I was like, Cass, I don't think that I'm going to be able to color this. My workload is just too much right now. And you were like, all right, I'm on it. And you found someone to color it like right away, and was just able to move.
Yeah. I mean, I think the team was really amazing too. I couldn't have been luckier with the people who ended up being involved. And I think if everyone wasn't as amazing as they were, it would have been even harder to do. So I really appreciate all of you guys. This book wouldn't exist, obviously. without you and your effort and your willingness to go with the flow. So, yeah.
I mean, it's pretty amazing that just how just going forward and putting out the effort to do something opens doors, you know, for you too, because you know you have eyes on this thing now because it's INGATZ nominated. You know, go out and vote, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then also now you're working at IDW in comics as you're an assistant editor now, right?
I am an editorial assistant.
There you go,
Yeah, the
editorial.
letter is very confusing and
Yeah.
full of E's and A's and A's and E's, but yeah.
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 Yeah, and so already like you're already like moving in the direction that you want to go, and I just think that's amazing. You also are a writer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And wrote one of the stories in here. I've got it bookmarked here.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Deprivation. I love this one.
Yeah, it's my fault that we can't be in libraries because I I was like, yes, we full nudity, full bush, free the bush, and then I
Yeah.
was like, whoops, no library
Oopsies.
for us unless we do some art over. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, to
actually,
be fair, I got a little bit of it going
yeah.
on in
Well,
here
the
too.
boobies seem to be okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
no
know.
genitals in libraries?
It's hard because you can't like with kids and things and like having it be a mature book, it's a little bit
Yeah.
harder of a sell, although we are now at the Somerville Library, which is in Massachusetts, in Boston, Somerville, where I live. So that's nice. We are in one library. We did make it, but
Hey.
it's in like, you know, the most liberal of
Yeah.
states and the most liberal of towns in that state. So you know,
Yeah.
sorry everybody.
Well, people are just gonna have to go out and buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Check it out.
So what was the seed for this story?
Oh man. So my mother-in-law got us deprivation tank appointments as
Nice.
part of like our Christmas hurrah. The year before I made Let Her Be Evil, like the Christmas before. And it was a wild experience. So this is sort of a fantastical reimagination of that experience,
Right.
but most of it is accurate to what happened to me, like as far as like just what I was thinking about at the time. Both of my grandmothers had passed away within like a week of one another, right before Christmas, and so death was very much on my mind when I was in the tank. I was thinking about them. And so this is sort of like a personification of death and like depressive thoughts surrounding that and like our role in death. And because I was not at home, I actually couldn't go home for either of their funerals because I would have had to pay for a plane ticket with like a 2-day turnaround from California back to Pennsylvania, and it just wasn't going to happen. So I think I was full of guilt about not being able to go.
Yeah.
And so that's where all of this sprung from, this woman who, and then I had to make it evil, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So I had to put an evil spin on it, but it's about a woman who smothers her mother in the hospital bed because she's tired of taking care of her. And then she thinks that she kind of like goes for like this self-care date with herself, being like, finally, like I did it, I'm free. And then, you know, is assaulted by a manifestation of her guilt because of having done that. Yeah. So Moe did an amazing job on the art. They're super talented. They actually have another piece in the book as well. And then Andriy did the letters, and he also did the logo type for Let Her Be Evil, period. And he really impressed me with what he did. I was so in love with all of the choices that they both made. So yeah, they made it seem really, I mean, like, I think they really took it away and made it seem really good. I'm a little embarrassed about the piece now because it's my first like script I ever wrote for comics. So I was like, I look back on it and I'm like, I could have done this, I could have done that. This is a little awkward or, you know, clumsy, but I think like we all feel that way about like all of the art that we make. There is no getting away from that eventuality. So yeah, I just, yeah, Very
Well,
good.
there's something to the beginner's mind too when you're starting something that you haven't really done before or thought about, because it's just like a band's first record can be like really good, and then they get a little bit of
Yeah.
success and they start, thinking about how we got to turn out all these hits, and then they just go downhill from there because they've lost what they initially had.
Right. There are definitely an element of like getting to play and being excited about drafting this.
Yeah.
And I was trying to pay attention to page turns and things that were new for the medium in comparison to prose. And I was thinking
Right.
about like, why is this a comic versus a short story, for example?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I use the medium of a comic versus a book in this? And I think that's something that's always on my mind as an editor who came from books to comics, is why is this a comic? Why is this not, what is it doing visually in its storytelling that is unique to this medium? And how can we like respect the medium if we're going to do it this way? Yeah. So I tried to think about that when I was looking at scripts too. Because there were a lot of good stories, but I just didn't know why it was a comic and not just like a short story. There wasn't anything that was like acting in that kind of way. And because I was so interested in delving into such a new medium, I was very like hyper fixated on that part of it.
Yeah, I was wondering how you kind of wrote the script, because the way that it's told, it's sort of just a thought process as she's kind of going along, and as it should be, the visuals are kind of, you're not spelling out what's happening in the visuals, with the text, which is perfect,
Oh, thank you.
And so did you kind of tell Moe what each panel should be, or did you just kind of say, this is what's going to happen on this page, Moe, give me some panels and I'll
I
put
wrote
the
I wrote
dialogue.
it like a usual script, so there are panel descriptions for everything. But because I was so new, what I did was and I still do this now for the scripts that I'm working on, and I think maybe over time I won't need to. But for me, is like I was worried about putting too much on a page or not using the visual part as much as I needed to. So I have a big whiteboard that I found in the trash, actually.
Oh yeah.
I found it in the trash, and I have a bunch of what are they called? Like the erase markers. And I'll sit in the floor in the living room. And my cats, for some reason, love the smell of the erase markers, so they'll like come hang out with me. It's the best. And I'll sit on the floor and I'll draw, my rectangles or whatever for how many ever pages I know that I have.
Yeah.
And then I start thinking out the visual beats of what I want to be in the story and see if I even have room for that. Because at this point in my career, for writing anyway, I'm mostly working in an anthology format. So you have like 4 to 10 pages, 10 if you're lucky. So it's like very constrained. And I didn't want to take up a lot of space in this because it felt obnoxious. So I did 6 pages, I think. So I kind of I had, for example, this page that you're on right now, I had this visual in mind with like the ghost over her. And I had the spiral of moths and things. So I drew everything. And then I based my writing on what I drew. So I just sat down and I said, panel 1, like it's this, I drew this, and then, added whatever flair text or whatever I thought or anything. And I just try to write it as clearly as possible for the artist so they know exactly what I'm saying without having like any, crazy flowery language or anything like that. And and in result, it ends up looking a lot like those thumbs. But I don't send them to the artist because I kind of want them to have their own ideas and their own. It's a collaborative process. I don't want to be like, hey, draw it exactly like how I thumbed it. So, but it just helps me know that I'm not overwriting a page or like putting too much on a page or asking too much of an artist to be like, can you do like a gorilla and an elephant and they're running and there's a tornado and also like it just, I don't know, stops you from.
That's a great way to do it. So can I ask how close to your like thumbnails was the final work?
Pretty close. I mean, especially these 2 pages that you're on right now, they're pretty much almost exactly how I drew them, which is really fun. But I am not as talented as Moe, so they did not look like this at all. They're really disturbing looking. But yeah.
You know, drawing a short story in comics, you know, traditionally when people, especially with horror things or things where you have to have some sort of big shocking reveal, traditionally people will look to like the EC comics and things like that as their template. And what I loved about your story is it doesn't kind of follow it in that way. There's no final page turn to some crazy, creepy thing that's happening. The final period on it is her just kind of being like, oh, well, I don't care. And it's sort of, it's like an emotional, you know, exclamation point to the story as opposed to a shocking thing, which in itself is sort of shocking because you find out that this girl is just kind of a piece of work, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Does not really
that's why
care.
I needed to land. To me, I needed to land that she was evil, and that was the thing that was hardest about this piece was getting in the horror, and also that she felt this way about it. I still go back and forth on whether I think I landed it, but to me, the turn page is the page before this one that you're on. Where we get this like drip drip and like there's an anticipatory waiting for the ghost to come back, and then we turn the page and we get this shot that was inspired by Parasite, the stairs scene in Parasite, to sort of mimic that horror jump scare, and then kind of trying to land the plane on that last page.
Well, you know, you did it. You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Because, like I said, like normally a horror-esque short story is gonna, you know, give you your twist at the end or your creature towards the end, you know. And here you're introducing it in the middle, and you're giving this like slow leak of the reveal, and it's creepy more than it is scary, right? And that works in comics, I think, better than scary. Like jump scares aren't that. They don't work that well in comics.
They're okay. I mean, it really depends on how you're doing it. I think I was leaning trying to do more into like to me, like horror and scary things are different, right?
Yeah.
So like the horror is her overwhelming thoughts as represented by this like waterfall of you know things and guilt and what it feels like to just be like completely overwhelmed by those things. That's horrible.
Yes.
It's not scary.
Right.
So that's kind of the dividing line there for me.
The scary thing is her utter lack of not caring that she killed her mom.
It's like, you sent your mom to nowhere. There is no afterlife. She's just nothing now. Fuck you. And then she's just like, yeah, cool. Okay. I don't.
Yeah, whatever.
Good.
Yeah. Like easily a person who could do this again, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Because also like in a deprivation chamber, you're left with nothing but your thoughts. Like if you're somebody who's just killed your mother and you're left with nothing but your thoughts, you would think that this person would be hyper guilt ridden, but they just are. They come out of it not at all. Yeah. And I think it's just handled so well. I think it's such a great story, you know, and every story that you chose for this thing sort of has a different quality to it that is. That's what I love about anthologies is they're all just so different.
Right. And it was hard. I mean, like I really focused on trying to get different kinds of women and different kinds of evil. And it's hard because the ones where, you know, she kills everyone, she being like the main character of the story, are fun. But I had so many of those that I had to be very selective about the ones that I chose where she does kill everyone. So for example, there's like the moth story at near like the beginning where there's like a cowboy who kills everyone. But this one was super fun because it's a silent comic. And it almost felt like to me, this is like the one piece that I had where it's like, okay, this character is a future nemesis of the protagonist, which is, I would say, is like the young boy moth who's like in the second panel to the left. I could see her, it's like setting up their origin story, but she like gets away with it. So we don't like see where this boy moth goes, but you can imagine him, you know, this is like an opening chapter to something that continues on and he's like a grown-up cowboy and he's hunting her down or whatever. So like if she's gonna kill everybody, like there's gotta be a reason why, and we gotta have somebody else to care about and to follow.
Wow, that's amazing. And the art styles, the artists that you chose to couldn't be any more different, throughout the whole thing, which again lends to a great anthology.
Mm-hmm.
Not just a good one. I will honestly say this is a great anthology. I mean, it's got everything that you could possibly want from one. And then you also, besides the A cover, you've got a couple extra covers too, other B and C versions that you did too, which are also really awesome.
Yeah. I think everyone kicked it, knocked it out of the park. Allison and Chloe's work here are just like crazy good. It was so fun chatting with them. Allison, I think we had the idea down in maybe like a 5-minute call.
Yeah.
Which was nuts. And she sent me her sketches. They were perfect. We had like 2 different color versions. Both of us were like, this one. And then we were like, cool, done. And everyone loves this cover. I have a poster of it in my house. And it's just, this one sells unbelievably well. And like Chloe's, like, who couldn't love this?
Yeah.
This cover, I mean, there's nothing, if you gotta have a babe in leather
right
on a Let Her Be Evil cover. You gotta. And we went back and forth about the blood a lot, which was fun. I'm pretty sure the FBI has me on a wanted list because I was just like, we were both like just looking up so many blood on leather references to be like, no, it's like kind of goopy and you can't see through it because it's on black. And so it's gotta be like, kind of non-transparent. And so that was really fun of like just talking about blood for like 15 emails. But yeah.
I'll tell you, as a comic artist, I've looked up some very, very strange things. I'm sure that I'm on some sort of list somewhere.
Yeah. The Matrix is actually really helpful because they have both blood and leather at all times.
Yeah.
So just sort of,
Yeah. And just look at this, like all these biographies, so many great creators on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
You really got a great lineup.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, just thank you so much for letting me play in the sandbox too. This is the first time I've actually talked to you verbally, not over email.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
so
the
I just
piece
want to
that
say thank
you
you.
did with James was so fun. I really love that one. It still makes me giggle. I hope my mom is really proud of us for putting like a 9-panel masturbation scene on the page. Yeah, very proud, very proud. Number one son for you, number one daughter for me. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that piece is great. So if you haven't read it, you have to.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get him on here and we'll take a closer look at that one too.
Yeah.
But like we said before, this book is nominated for an INGATZ Award. Go and get your ballots online if you have one already. Haven't filled it out. Make sure that this is the book that you pick for best anthology. And you have until September 13th to vote, I think. So it's coming up quick. So do it, kick it out. And Cass, just thank you again, like so much for putting together such an awesome book. Hopefully we can work together again in the future. And I just can't wait to see where your career goes from here too, because it's off to a really great start,
Oh, thank you so much. Absolutely.
Where do you want people to, where can people get the book actually right now?
So you can actually get it on Zoop. If you go to their shop, the A, B, and C covers are available over there, but they don't have many of them.
Okay.
So go and get it now if you want it.
Okay.
And then a lot of creators have copies as well, and they'll be traveling to cons and things. So keep an eye out when you go to New York Comic Con or any other con this year. People will have them. And then the last resort, if you can't find copies in either of those locations, you can message me. I have some as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have a few copies at CXC in Columbus at the end of the month. So
so find it there. Get it there. Yeah.
Right.
Find from Chris.
Yeah. Do you want to tell people where to find you on the webs?
Sure. On X or Twitter, I am Cassandra Jones, CassannJones, and on Instagram, I am HelloCentral4212.
Perfect. All right. Well, Cass, thanks so much for coming on, and until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Join my Patreon to see my work before anyone else. Plus, score physical sketchbooks, mini comics, and commissions delivered right to your door. And reading my new books, Something Seems Off and Three-Headed Pigman, as they are made. Go to my website to order original art, commissions, and my books, Lost Angels, Spectral: A Showcase of Fear, Chaotic Neutral, and more. Gray Matter Drip, The Art of Chris Anderson is available now from Cosmic Lion Productions. Here are the upcoming conventions I'll be at the time of this recording. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps spread the word. Thanks.